Hey, welcome everyone to another episode of Feedback and Friends on ILBC TV. I've got a good friend here today, Nathaniel Wyvern himself.
Hello.
It's so good to see you. Welcome to the show. We got some good stuff going on tonight, I think.
I hope so. We usually do.
Amazing. Yeah, good to see you. Sorry, I think you were muted. So for anyone who is just tuning in for the first time, we do Feedback and Friends every Wednesday on LBC. We take your tracks. You can just join our Discord or in the Twitch chat, type !help queue, and that'll tell you how to get into the queue for tonight. It's still pretty open, so don't be afraid to submit stuff. I think it's just going to be me and Nathaniel, so we'll go to this little cozy crowd view here. But I'm just going to lead up with our first. St. Mercury is first in the queue tonight. I've been seeing that name around recently. I think a new member to our community. This track is called Goddess of Dawn. It's funny. Zavi told me tonight, because I'm wearing this really cool Marie beanie, it's like, you should rap. And I kind of feel that way about this track. Like, it needs a rap. It's a nice, not a lot of space for one, but this could be a place to freestyle, right? I think so, in my opinion.
Otherwise, as an instrumental, you'd have
Sorry,
to
Nathaniel.
either.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. Your audio was not patched in, so you're gonna have to start again. But I think that now the good news is you're here.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, what I was saying was that you had two choices if you chose to explore the vocal direction. It'd be either do it yourself and start sketching out a direction like with the poetic words kind of vibe, where it emphasizes the chill. This is we're having a good time. Yeah. Or you have someone freestyle over the top of it, in which case the flow is what matters. But I mean, if you want to keep it as an instrumental, that is a thing. But you have to consider then maybe either making it shorter or playing about more with your effects. I mean, Barrett mentioned that there seemed to be some sort of attempts to create a Doppler effect thing with a guitar. And that's cool with it going side to side, but there are other tricks you can use to continue to emphasize that effect. You're alternating your frequency balance for that sound can make it sound like it's moving as well. Things that have more bass sound like they're closer, while things that have more high end sound like they're above your head, sort of batting around the room, especially with a bit of reverb. And the more you play with that, you can actually spatially arrange your elements with the EQ just as much as your actual panning and your flanger or whatever else you're using. So my worst playing about just a little bit more with that in a artistic sense rather than a purely this is mixed as balanced technical EQ kind of approach.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was sort of saying as this was coming out, like, yeah, I really wanted to hear, if not a vocal. I mean, not everything needs a vocal, but a lot of hip hop is, made for rappers to go on. It just kind of goes with the genre. So, I mean, you can have a solo element that you add in interest. Like, you can have a lot of things in that place, but there needs to be something. And I do agree. Like, the panning is really cool and interesting, but I think some EQing on that a little bit, and then some filtering, and you can use a lot of these time-based effects like reverbs and delays, and not just the standard ones. I mean, there are so many really cool reverbs. I really consider reverb an artistic thing, so I like to kind of collect them, and they're not always very expensive. Some good ones that I like are Valhalla sets of reverbs, like the vintage verb, but also Valhalla makes free stuff that is just as good. We love talking about free stuff on this show. So a lot of the Valhalla Supermassive and Space Modulator, is it? They make the really, really, really cool delays, and they add this texture and they add this kind of like air to your song, and you can automate those things. So not even just thinking of wet and dry, but think about like automating weird stuff, because they can be weird reverbs, and shimmer reverb, that's a really nice way to add a texture. I just kind of would like to hear some kind of reverb and EQ on with that to fully create the space, I think, that we're looking for. But I want to say I really like the drum kit. I really thought it like came in nice and heavy and full and even, and that was like the best impression when it comes in and you're just like, okay, the beat is solid. The beat being solid is the most important part about making beats, one might say, especially in this genre. So I think that just playing a little bit around with that helps to keep it a little bit less loopy, similar to what Nathaniel said, just slightly different words, but time-based effects and automating weird parameters about them. But one thing I will caution, when you start playing with weird reverbs and stuff, don't forget to low cut your reverbs. Don't forget to EQ the reverb itself, because you don't need reverb on your sub, right? So you don't really want it on the super low ends of your sounds either. Cool. That was amazing. Oh, next up we got Evelyn. Oh dear. Oh dear.
It's gonna be a contrast.
Evelyn. All right. Is everybody awake? Because you will be. This is called Sector 17.
Trapped in Sector 17. Trapped in Sector 17.
Oh my. Evelyn Seeker, my friends. Evelyn, I think that might have been my favorite thing that I have heard from you. Is this new? You want to tell us a little bit in the chat about like the story of this? This is really quite amazing. I really love like the old school vibes and the intro at the beginning, like really like thick drums. And somebody in the chat, Zreal86, said if Cannibal Corpse did dubstep. I think that's pretty accurate. I really, really liked the the industrial feeling, the space and everything in that. And I love the weirdness of the sounds, like they're really unique. For me, the only thing in the second drop, I would maybe have liked to hear like that variation you have at the end with the syncopation, like da, 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 da. That's really cool. And almost that rhythmic pattern could come in earlier, and it could just come in as like a high pitched, even percussive element over the second drop or something, because like it just would change it up a little bit. But just micro picking because I really love that thrashing space. You know, it's so cool. What did you think, Natty?
I mean, a lot of the more up tempo sections actually reminded me a bit of the Prodigy.
Yes.
Barrett said that it reminds him of the late 90s, and it's that sort of corner, the sort of the grungy, slightly edgy electronic sort of stuff that was happening back then. I mean, and you can see some of it as we've gone on with groups like Knife Party. And then you got all the sort of metal EDM-y kind of people going on with this sort of thing, and it's really cool because you've managed to combine several of these different directions all into one song. Because you got the really tear-out rhythmy sort of sounds, and you've got all the sort of the old sort of loosely dubsteppy sounds, the trancey bits, the drum and bassy bits, and it does form a coherent journey. So that's really, really cool.
Yeah, no, I'm in awe. I think really this is like so focused and so clean and heavy at the same time. I'm doing the sub pack test for anyone doesn't know. I got my little sub pack, my personal bass bin. I'm a little bass turtle right now. And yeah, so everything is getting the sub pack test. And by the way, that goes down to 1 hertz. So if your 1 hertz is messed, I will know.
I feel like we need a turtle sub pack emote for the channel.
I will know. Yeah, I want to start making some emotes. So if anyone is good at making emotes, we'll give you mad special roles. Oh, okay, we are gonna get something I can feel this. Metaphysics, you are up next. I love those drums. super interesting, and sometimes we only let tracks play for about 3 minutes because we try to, obviously make sure we can play everyone's track and still get a feel for the song. But that one just took so many twists and turns. I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Oh, wow. Oh, cool. New part. It was definitely a lot of really cool elements, but I think maybe for me, they're so cool that I would like you to separate them a little bit less. Like you have a really cool idea, sort of atmosphere in the intro, and then you have a really cool other atmosphere in the drop, and then you have another one in the next breakdown. And like every section is, it's almost like you're like the best DJ in the world. Like you're just like seamlessly mixing from theme to theme. But I think that you could make it a little tiny bit more coherent by like resampling yourself throughout, like take some of that trumpet and just resample a little piece of it and bring it in and like syncopate it in the middle, and just tie it together so that it feels like a cohesive thing. And as a couple people mentioned, the trumpet in the intro, sometimes the notes drift a little bit out of key. So I think maybe if it's a sample, I would cut it and just like have a little more choice of what you resampled. Also, something I noticed about your side chains, they're clean, but some of them are almost like they feel like they have a little bit of a weird edge to them. They could be a bit smoother. I would like to hear the pulse like... You know what? Come back to me. Nathaniel, I need to have a sip of water, so I'll finish after you.
I mean, the first thing I noted was your first drop before you got to the heavier bass section. You could have let that build up, but get a little bit louder and then cut out for a little bit longer so that you maximize that impact when the bass comes in. Because it's sort of just like stops, and it's sort of more like a hiccup than something that feels deliberate. And this is something you could sort of riff on again during your second build up toward when we get to that final climax, where you can then say, instead of having a gap, you can start using, I don't know, drum fills or filter effects or some sort of, really fun sort of little playing about-y kind of thing, again to sort of create contrast. And it's about just sort of maximizing that edge before you drop off it, literally.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Thanks.
I mean, I agree. There were a couple of points where it sounded like that brassy sort of sound was out of key. But I mean, I don't think it's like you're actually choosing the wrong notes, but it's probably a matter of your voicing. You try spreading those notes up and down the octaves a little bit and see if there are any weird sort of conflicts being generated by it being so stacked together in sort of 1.5 octaves. Because I feel like it's sort of the addition of each of those frequencies that is creating the sense that it might actually be out of key, even though it's not.
Well, no, I think there are some notes in the trumpet line in the intro that are out of key with the song, and sometimes you can do that, like if the bass is more dissonant and minimal and stuff, right? But if that bass and that synthwave part are very melodic, so I think that like when you compare them to that, like the notes, just occasionally, not the whole thing, right? But I think with to echo what Nathaniel said about voicing, I also think that the so I left off, I was saying that the shape of your side chains could slope. So a smooth side chain, like really, if you ever tried Duck Buddy, which is something you can only get in Ableton, but it's a Max for Live thing developed by Slink, and it lets you have all kinds of shapes for your side chains, so that if you use Ableton, you can check that out. If not, I would still like maybe do like manual volume chaining, or trying a different way, or just even shorten the release hold attack kind of envelope on your side chain. But also, sorry, to build off the voicing, now I'm getting to the point. The tail of like your low elements in general, I think were too long on the synth thing, and that makes the voicing sound bad no matter what, because the tails bleed into the next note. So then you get like overlapping notes from the last bit. So I think just maybe just tightening just the tiniest bit. Sometimes I just tighten the release of a synth patch, or I just like take the reverb down a little bit, and it just really tunes everything up. So I would recommend trying that. Also, I found the snare just in the last part after the last drop to be a little bit sharp in my headphones. Did you? I don't know if you felt that, Natty, but for me, I was like, oops.
I mean, I think that definitely some little tweaks to the mix would be helpful. I think it's more just going over everything a little bit with a fine-tooth comb more than worrying about one specific element.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we got John Ozzy. Cool. All right. Called Bona Fidelity. gonna leave this playing and we're gonna talk over this. So first of all, I apologize for the unintentional ear rape, but it was kind of my fault, and it also kind of was not. And let me explain to you exactly how that just went down. So what happened is this track, it starts out quiet and it takes a long time to get unquiet. And the thing is, I get what you're doing with the fade in, but you can't do it for that long in your track, because what happened is I then was like, okay, this is way too quiet. I have to increase the gain. And when I tried to increase the gain by 2 dB, OBS spiked and did it to 20 dB. So that is why that happened. But anyways, I would not even have touched the gain if that track had gotten louder sounder. So I'm sorry, but you should also be sorry. Just kidding. But again, I mean, that is why that happens. So when you're making tracks to master, and I'm not even sure if this is like a mix because it's 11 minutes long, or maybe it's just a Berlin techno track, right? So it's 11 minutes long. I like it a lot. Yeah, as background music for taking. I mean, this is a really nice texture compared to the last one. I really like the space in it once it kicks in, but I do think that needs to come in faster, because like I said, people listening will kind of be like, oh, this is just really quiet and where is it? So I don't know, maybe I don't have the techno attention span. I will fully admit that maybe I'm a little bit more of a give me what I want a little bit sooner type of person. But I think that even in aspect of that, there are ways that you can make it interesting and ways that you can make it build, that other than having really slow volume automation, you know, like filters is kind of a more typical one. I like this part right here, actually. This kind of just seems like a mix though. So again, I don't know if it's just whatever this is, I want it to happen sooner. It's really nice. The attention span, what's that? What are your thoughts, Natty?
I mean, I think that if you're going to go with the whole really, really long progressive thing, a lot of it comes down to a mixture of environment and timbre.
Yeah.
Basically, you've got to immerse us in your world to the point where we actually feel like we're being transported to somewhere else. And right now, you've got your nice little pads, but they're kind of the same all the way through. They sit in one space, and they don't ever move from it. So it's a case of either creating more layers or duplicates of that layer and starting to change how you treat it just ever so slightly as you go along. The other thing would be taking things very literally when it comes to space. Like, where do you want the listeners to be? And then just go and make a notepad file or write in your sketchbook or whatever, all the things you associate with that place. And start looking at, well, okay, if this was an urban environment, maybe I'd hear them working on the road, there's jackhammer sounds, or if I'm in nature, you've got the obvious stuff, water running, birds, the trees are swaying and blustering in the wind, little insects are chirping away or whatever. And you don't have to then take it literally from that stage. It's sort of just capturing the qualities of those sounds. So the birds, well, that's all higher end frequencies, lots of little trills and, really sort of, bird sounds. Unless it's like, but,
another cacaw, 2 cacaws in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. But, it's once you start nailing down that intention, it becomes a lot easier to then say, well, okay, what sounds fit in those spaces?
Yeah.
And then you can sort of sprinkle them in throughout the entire build-up of the track, so that by the end of it, we're really surrounded by this huge wall of sort of environment.
Yeah, I actually like this track more the more that it goes on. Like, it's really actually nice to have in the background. It's super relaxing. It's super hypnotic. Like, I really love it, actually. Like, I just, it's just all about that intro for me. It just needs to give us a little bit more sooner. And then Zaleon in the track says you have the skeleton of the song. Now you need to do the finishing ear candy and arrangement hook. So, yeah, I think this part is super magic. And it's, we are now 8 minutes in. So I think that this part should come way sooner. That's just me. But maybe even just tease it a little bit. But yeah, Agatsky is saying something really wise. Like, for me, the stuff like this depends on the intention as something to just vibe and meditate to, or throw into a middle of a smoky 2M set. It is perfect. that's totally true. I mean, music definitely has different intentions and different environments, and so yeah. And the other thing is if you're DJing this, it's no problem to have, for when I get a track with an 8-minute intro, I'm like, sweet, I can ride like a dual mix for like 6 minutes, right? And then something like that. So I think techno is great, especially when you're mixing it live, because you can totally create new tracks on the fly. So I would play this if I was playing a techno set. It would be super great. But I think, you know what I would say? Keep it and do the flow of it, and then do like a radio edit, and kind of put that out too, because I think having 2 versions would be awesome. So, but it's good. I don't even want to stop it. At this point, we're like 9 minutes in, and it's like we might as well just go all the way. All right. But super, we got to give some time and get through the queue. So very, very nice, very, very chill. That was actually really, I felt like a real radio DJ just talking over that just now. So next up, we got N4UDY. I never know how to pronounce these things. You can make a whole bunch of clips of me badly pronouncing things on the stream, which is hypocritical because people always mispronounce my name. So sorry, I will try not to do that. You can feel free to tell me how to pronounce it in the chat. But this is a music video. Oh, so I think let me see if I can put it on the screen, because that would be nice, wouldn't it? Let's see. I got this, but then Nathaniel isn't on here, and I don't want to take Nathaniel away. Let me do this, and then
You can take me away. It's okay.
Okay, just for a second to put this browser on, because I want to put this on the thing. Okay, so tell us about the making of the music video. I think that it would be really cool to hear. I always love supporting this kind of thing. Oh, maybe. I don't know if I have enough time. I didn't set this up. I wasn't expecting anybody to submit a music video, but that is okay. Let me see if I can do it this way. Let's see. Okay. Oh, come on. No, it's not working. It's going to make me do this. Okay. So I think we can just do, how about a window capture? That's nice. That's nice and fast. Let's do a window capture of the Safari music video, and there it is. All right, it should only take a couple of seconds, and now we can do this. Okay. So this is probably going to get me a strike. So that's please. It does say for a reason, no release material, because this is the kind of stuff that gets just taken down or muted. So really love the video with the music. I think that was a super well done video. I'd love to know, like, tell us whatever more stories about that. And by the way, they say it's pronounced naughty. That makes sense. But yeah, I think melodically, I really love the vocals. As some have said, the vocals are really unique. The ideas are really great. Gatsky keeps commenting that mono bass makes me sad. I do agree that maybe the top end of the bass could use a little bit of interest, some dimension, and some band pass filtering, just small little sears or things that sort of make it move a little bit, because everything else has some really good space. So even though this is not my usual style, I really enjoy the composition in it. I think that you have a really good sense of general space and arrangement and everything like that. Natty.
I have a couple of suggestions, mainly around your build-ups. I mean, the first build-up, the contrast between it and the drop. The drop isn't gritty enough in relation to your build-up. It's like the build-up's really sort of big and loud. And while you have the sort of the bass proportion right, it's the energy levels that they sort of, rather than increasing with the drop, they sort of just dip. And a lot of that is to do with how you're treating your sound design on the upper mid-range and the high end. You could do with playing about with soft clipping or saturation around there on all your sounds potentially, just to see where that balance is.
Natty, wait, you are gone for some reason. Hold on. I don't know why Nathaniel has just disappeared. That is super bizarre. Hold on one moment. It seems that my technology is disappearing. I think he will come back. I don't think you're able to be heard. No, I can hear him in the room. For some reason, I'm gonna just really quick patch you. I'm gonna just patch you out for a second. I don't know why. This is why we use cutting edge technology. Sometimes it's a little bit interesting. I'm gonna send the output to here right now. Natty?
Can everybody hear me?
Okay, so now you're coming through the driver and I can't hear you. So would you mind maybe just refreshing and coming back
in a second,
because
then.
I don't want to patch you this way, because then I won't be able to hear you. Basically. All right. So sorry. Oh, there he is. See, I just had to do that.
Hello.
So I don't know. Technology back.
I had one more suggestion as well. Is after your second drop, you go for that lovely little break and bridge into this verse, but then you hold off a fair bit of time before you get to the claps, and then everything comes in. My suggestion was about those claps. As they get faster and faster and faster, what you should do is automate the decay on those claps and the release a little bit. Because, I mean, I don't know how you're doing them, but with if they're samples, you'd shorten the sample a little bit as you go along. Basically to put them in line with your kick. The other way would be to potentially have a second track and you'd gate it to the kick, so those claps only hit and only exist when the kick hits. Because as it gets faster and faster, it's like the tails of the claps are blurring into each other. That sucks some of the energy out of the build-up, because it just sort of becomes distracting and not rhythmic. So those are kind of your three ways, depending on how you're inserting your claps in the first place. If it's sample, shorten the samples a little bit each time as the kicks get faster. If it's coming out of some sort of sample library, change the decay time to lower that, and your release, so that the tail gets a bit shorter in the actual plugin. And yeah, if you're doing it some other way that you can't control it so well, just create a duplicate track and stick a gate on it that's tied to your kick, so that they are linked and they will only sound at the same time.
Very good, Nathaniel. Sorry that you disappeared. That was bizarre. But if that ever happens again, we now know that you just need to go out and in.
I just need to go all on my own.
All right. This next one is a YouTube link. It looks like it might be independent, so please don't do this to me. Don't give me copyright strikes. But it is from some user Animistic, and the artist is called Namitisi PKHM. Okay.
You want to try the laser thing? Wait, what? What? Oh, maybe, yeah.
Okay, so this is another 7-minute track, so we're gonna talk over this a little bit. But first off, like everyone is saying, some really great delay work. And it's funny, I have to laugh because Zalion is saying you need to control your buildups and your release of tension. Some parts feel like they were building up to something crazy, but it never comes. That's generally my impression of trance in festivals. It's like, but I don't even mean that in a bad way. I feel like part of the tension, part of what gets people hooked on the dance floor for like 3 days is it's like the music keeps teasing them, you know? It's like, just keep going a little bit longer. It's coming. It's coming. Just kidding. Psych.
It's like one of those bingeable TV shows where you know the end will hit at some point, but you just don't know what's going to happen until then.
Yeah. Psytrance is about being punched in the face. I love building tension to just leave people on that have cliffhanger. Chat is really great. Apparently they're better at talking than me. Yeah, I mean, I think still listening to this now, this has got all the classic punchy like sound palettes. The one thing is, a couple minutes in, when you started kind of filtering one of your delays and it got really strong, there was a little bit of a hot point where it hurt me just a tiny bit. So, as we love to say on this show, dynamic EQ, right? Dynamic EQ is the secret band-aid of music for anything synthy or anything that changes pitch at all, really. Like, it can just pull in the resonance only on the specific frequencies or notes that are problems. So anything else to say on this track, Natty?
I mean, aside from deciding whether you want to sort of give people a bit of a bone as far as releasing the tension earlier, I mean, I think you nailed the sort of the rolling techno bass, I mean, obviously all the trancey arps and stuff. The use of stereo field is really good. I mean, that definitely feels like all those little machines are going around my head.
Going around your head.
Going around my head. And actually I spent a lot of time listening to this sort of stuff on one of the video games I played last year. It reminds me of that sort of, where you could, you know, while you're battling monsters or whatever, you could play this and it would, you know, the fact that it doesn't let up on the tension building isn't a detriment in that context, because you're already hyping yourself up as you're going. I think the hardest thing would be, I mean, this goes for one of the other tracks we had as well, where the really chill sort of house one is, it makes it harder when you're making music like this to stand out. So I mean, I think when you're doing that, you have to then maybe think about other ways of pushing your track if you want people to listen to it. So I mean, definitely look into how you might adapt a visual component, perhaps. You know, making fun animations, or I don't know, some sort of collage in your video sort of thing might be required to, you know, go that extra step if you want people to listen to it, because while in some ways it's good set fodder and, you know, maybe fits in plenty of playlists all over the place, it is hard getting that reach organically. So I mean, I think that you have to, when it comes to finishing and releasing a track like this, definitely work on what else you can do to sort of pitch it, to say, yes, go listen to my trance track over everyone else's, because it is, it's one of those things where I feel like it could slot in anywhere, and that is useful in a functional manner, but not necessarily useful in a connect it with people manner. Like,
yeah, for sure. So listen, since we're already talking about it in the chat, I kind of want to segue into our plugin of the week segment, but I wasn't able to do that as smoothly as I wanted because Ableton decided to do the weirdest crash I've ever seen, and it just wouldn't let me quit, wouldn't let me load projects. It would just grade itself out. So TDR Nova, this is a weapon, as our friend Chase Dobson is saying, and it's absolutely free. I know I sound like a Walmart salesperson right now, but just right, for free $99, you can go to tokyodon.net/TDR-Nova and pick it up absolutely free, folks. So let me actually just show you a little bit. So here's just forgive me, I'm really not working on a lot of music yet because I've been really busy setting up this channel for all of you, but I just wanted to just pick a random project and just show you TDR Nova, which I of course already have because I use it on absolutely everything. So dynamic EQs, if you've never used a dynamic EQ, but you've used a compressor and you've used an EQ, then you will find this not too strange, right? This is a free plugin again. So I do have this paid version of it called GE, but it just has a couple extra bands. That's really the main difference. And it's got a couple of extra slopes. So you won't miss anything by getting the free version. You will still get something just as good. And basically the main thing that people who get stuck on it, turn it on. You have to turn this button where it says in to see the spectrum analyzer, which is really important when you're trying to see where your rogue frequencies are. So the way that it works is that each band, if you leave it at 0, you don't even have to touch the gain. You can just set a threshold for it to activate. And when that frequency exceeds the threshold, it will control the EQ. And it seems like compression, it's actually expansion. And so it has a more delicate effect than compression because it doesn't compress the dynamic range and then bring it up. It actually expands the dynamic range by cutting frequencies and expanding the noise floor. So it's a really cool thing. And you can let's just see what it's doing. And let's find some audio. So super extreme. It's easy to get super extreme. We don't need a cut that deep, but I can set the Q. I can set the frequencies all like I would like normal stuff. And let me just, I don't really want anyone to hear these vocals yet. I'm not really ready for that. So let's just mute them. All right. See if I set the frequency, it's only gonna actually activate the EQ when it goes over the threshold. So anyways, obviously, if I were actually using that in a context, I would go and look for that frequency. I could then, I can turn the gain down and it will also behave like a normal EQ and take down the gain before that. But if you just want to only control that frequency when it hits, then just set your thresholds. There's also ratio, attack, and release, all that good stuff that you have to deal with compressors as well. And yeah, it's free. So Nathaniel, do you have any TDR Nova stories or tips to share?
That's a spontaneous good question. Honestly, I actually probably don't use this enough. I mean, I find when I'm dealing with really tricky stuff that I end up whipping it out because I rely very heavily on more basic EQ methods. I find it especially handy for layering bass sounds together. Because you can sort of force different aspects of them to bump in and out of each other's way.
Yeah, exactly.
And that does require taking advantage of the sidechain aspect because you're playing with different layers. It's a real asked if you could sidechain it, and yep, you can. And so far, at least, if it works with my DAW, which is completely random, it likely works pretty well with any DAW. So yeah, that's pretty good and handy. What I also like is the preset management is actually quite good. So you can save your own little templates and things. I mean, I have one for different types of notch EQ for different features like nasalization and whatever else. So
yeah, totally. Yeah, and this is the free version, by the way. I just loaded it up so you can compare. So it just has a few less bands. Again, you have to turn the spectral analyzer in. You have to turn the threshold button on each one of them if you want it to activate. Otherwise, it's just a normal EQ. So yeah, I recommend. There's really nothing to lose by getting this, and it can be especially good, like Nathaniel said, for smoothing out different elements. Like, if you have that Hocket bass style where you have like 7 basses going in a track and you're trying to even them out, sometimes just throwing a TDR Nova very lightly over top of all of them, it will just control, like, maybe one of them has a screechiness and it'll just pull that in and it'll smooth it out with the rest of them. So yeah, it helps. Exactly. It seems a very effective tool for making elements that sit in the same space pop. So that's our plugin of the week. We're going to try and make our plugins of the week free as much as possible because this is all about showing you stuff to increase your creativity, and money should not be an object. So yeah, I love FabFilter. A lot of people are talking about FabFilter, but it is expensive. I wasn't even able to buy it until I became an educator and got a discount. So we're going to move on. The queue suddenly got full. I love it. I always, at the beginning, I'm like, oh my God, no one's putting songs in. And then everybody comes in. So we will open up the queue for a couple more, maybe. Let's see. I'm going to just try and keep going. We have Set Solid next and another future garage link, which I'm really excited about. super smooth. I love that vibe right at the end here. Um, yeah, it's gonna sound like I'm just copying y'all in the chat, but great minds think alike, and I definitely think, as others said, the fake out drop, it's a little bit too long, and I love dynamic range. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of dynamic range, like to the point where it's too quiet. You're missing those sounds. And so I think that the second part is so good when it does drop, but the build is just a little bit clumsy. Like there's something about that snare just kind of being like, bum, 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 bum. Like I want some sort of variance. I want it to filter in. I want maybe like some slightly different samples, or maybe just a rim, or just something about that build is just awkward is the only word I could think of. But the drop after is so good. So like, I really want you to do that justice maybe and just pull it in. I love having it shrink down. That tension is good, but just tighten it up a bit more, I think. And the lead synth, as I agree with others too, it could use a little bit of texturizing to sort of fit in more to the really, really great atmosphere that you have for the rest of the track. Natty, no, oh, there you are. Phew.
Am I still here?
You are back. You
Am I
vanished
still
for
audible?
1 second. Yes, you're good.
That's
I don't know.
concerning.
The internet is broken today. What else is new? You're good.
I mean, for me as well with that track, I felt some of the sounds were a little bit boxy.
Oh, no.
Huh?
Oh, you came in and out. Yes, go.
Yeah, some of the sounds I felt were a little bit boxy. The kick especially, I'd scooped the lower mids
Natty's
out of...
freezing.
Can you still
All
hear
right.
me?
Natty needs to refresh again. Oh, he's going out. I think maybe his internet is a little bit... Oh, no. The internet today. All right. Natty, if you can hear me.
Come on.
There you are.
Please work.
Yeah. You just a refresh. Something about the servers.
Oh, my camera's broken again. Sad.
Oh, dear.
Oh, well.
That'll come back. I can hear you at least. Keep on with
Oh,
your
well.
feedback, and we'll see how it goes.
I'll figure that out later. I felt that some of the sounds were a little bit boxy, but I mean, what you could do, especially with that kick, is you scoop some of the lower mids out of it a little bit, and you boost your transient slightly. Because the rest of your bass is really heavy, and you free up a little bit room there to make your bass pop out a little bit more, but also by keeping the transient, you help us still feel the kick a bit more, so that it's sort of there's a little bit of a crunch to it, maybe some slight saturation with a multi-band compressor, that kind of thing, or an exciter, something along that lines. The other thing would be to how you're going to handle that drop. I mean, when you go down to the break and it's sort of, everyone felt that it felt like an ending, there would be a really good opportunity if you really want to make sure that people are aware the track is still going. It's add more melodic or ambient elements.
Yeah.
Actually give us that. If you want it to be super heavy and in your in that small space for the drop, and that's fine. That's a choice you can make. Then you have to open out. So I mean, that would be my suggestion. There would be to sort of think about what that ambience, that sense of texture and space going during that interval. It'll help keep our attention span going until you build up to that second, more awesome drop, and also make it clear it's a break, not an outro.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people were just like, oh, is that the end? And I was almost like, whoa, no, it's not. Yeah. So just tightening that, I think will really get that track going. And I think you could even make that build shorter and the second drop longer, because I really like that. Cool. We're going to move on because we got a full queue. Sup, you're listening to Feedback and Friends. You're also watching it. I'm so used to doing radio. Can you tell? You're watching with myself and Nathaniel Wyvern, our great Discord co-mod. If you don't know what ILBC is, you're like, what the heck is this? What are you all doing here? We are a community promoting live electronic performance, music production, music tech, all kinds of just cool toys and techniques for all of you to build a community. We are going to have a competition happening later this year. So if you're into live electronic performance, you could be a candidate. There's going to be lots of cool prizes, sponsors, all kinds of things going on. But check out ilbc.tv for more details. Next up is Omni S, and the track is called When You Forgot. All right, that was Omni S called One You Forgot. Nice track. I really like it, the build of tension. I think you got some really good writing, as others have said. It's got a really nice progression throughout, and it keeps my interest. Nathaniel is showing us the intricacies of this room. Oh, why can I not hear you? That's not good.
I hit the mute button. Sorry,
Phew.
that was my
Scared
fault.
me, Nathaniel.
So I'm just a bundle of technical issues today, apparently.
It's okay. It's all good. I accidentally muted you the first time, so it's my karma.
So I thought that was a vibe. I mean, the overall sense of progression throughout the track was really well done. I think that I agree that some of the pumpiness with the sidechain was too intense. I think this would be something that'd be alleviated by using gates in some places rather than compressors.
Really? Because gates are pretty
Because-
dramatic too, but you think just maybe because they're faster?
Yeah. It sort of would make it less of a pump and more of a hit, like it's a stab, rather than...
Yeah. I mean, other people are kind of weighing in and saying that they notice the sidechain, and sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes, yeah, I think it is just a tiny bit too much. But yeah, compositionally, it's super well done, and it's sonically in general, I would say it's pretty clean. What did you think of the space in general, Natty?
I think it had a good sense of where it wanted to take us with the spatial arrangement. There was a lot of going on in the stereo field, and it was I generally had a good time listening to it. So I mean, I don't really have a huge amount of negative criticism here for this one.
Yeah, me neither. I think everybody agrees. Solid track. Just like adjust your sidechain. And as I said before, there's so many different ways you could sidechain that sometimes maybe like a gate, like Natty said, maybe volume automation, maybe Kickstart by Nicky Romero. Sorry, that just always makes me laugh. All right. Anyways, I'm a goof. Next up, we have JJ the Boss 05, otherwise known as Jason, with a track called Moonlight. Jason, that was nice. I really love I have I don't even know if it's critical or not, because ultimately I really like the way it sounds. I like the wateriness and the underwater feeling that's going on, but I also think it gets a bit blurry sometimes, and that's a really tricky space to be in when you want to do something purposefully dark and reverby and lo-fi, but there also has to be even just a little bit of clarity to balance it out, I think for me, just some really top end air was sort of just what I was missing. I wanted a bit more sizzle, even above that, feeling like I'm a little bit more outside, and it was just a little bit muffled to me. I don't know if you got that same impression, Natty. You're muted.
There was a bit of a lo-fi edge to the track that I don't think quite was the intention with it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it is just about tweaking the sonic balance of the track. It's just going over everything and making sure it's only occupying the space that it's meant to. I think a lot of the strengths of this track lie in the sound choices themselves, and the fact that it sounds as good as it does. I think it's a testament to that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's fine tooth comb annoying mixed down time. It's the bit I hate the most, honestly. Not gonna lie.
Me too. Me too. I think really like this is the opportunity to play with like multi-band effects sometimes and just use the very top end. So if you have like any effect that has a multi-band, just do some like top end stereo excitement. Because stereo excitement, I usually don't recommend it because people overuse it and it sounds really bad. But if you just use it on like the top end a little bit, and you don't do it through the whole thing, it can be really nice. Or maybe just some creative panning, just a little something to sizzle at the top. That's really like all. I think compositionally it was really cool, and I agree with Chase. It kind of has bonobo vibes to it, and that's like one of my favorite artists. So, yeah. All right. And Natty, I would just say just don't mute yourself because I do mute both of us when I play the track. So unless you're like, I don't know, chewing something really, really like gristly, like if you're just, I can't wait to take a chicken bone, I'm in then. But all right, we got Chris
Sorry.
doing a disco thing. Chris is telling me that this just kind of loops, so I think we can talk over a little bit. So Chris is the same guy that brought that Michael Jackson-ish vibe sound, and we had the same feedback, right? It's a super dope idea, really clean mix, perfect for vocals. You just need a vocalist. But the good news for you, Chris, I don't know if you're interested, but if you saw the last episode I just did of Primp My Live, I don't know if you saw it. If you haven't, check it out. I featured this amazingly talented guy named Howard. And Howard is an amazing songwriter and singer, and he like rips it on the piano, and like he does funk, and he plays the sax. Like he's just really cool. And he is a songwriter, and he's totally dying to work with producers. So can I please introduce you? Like please DM me, give me some kind of information, like an email, because I just really think he sings like he's kind of like Bruno Mars-ish vibe when he sings, so I feel like he would go really well with your stuff. But anyways, I would love to set up this collab because I remember you saying you just like didn't know any vocalists, and I think that your stuff is perfect. Couldn't you see Howard singing on this, Natty?
Yeah, I get what you mean with his sort of low-key, jazzy sort of vibe he has got going on. The other thing I think would have been nice with if you develop this further would be to see some chord changes in the sounds you've chosen so far. Like rather than having the same thing every 4 bars, it would be nice to hear some minor changes to build up that tension. It will help carry on the sections even if you're going to stick to a rigid pattern. Yeah, totally. Your stuff is so good, Chris. I really, really enjoy it. And I think it's just like you should, just pair up with a songwriter and just you could do some amazing. And as Barrett says, finding some session musicians to get some live instrumentation. I mean, it is nice to have a little bit more live stuff. You can, on Splice and things like that, you can get some little like rhythm guitar loops and like small things that you can sort of keep in the background. Like, so if you absolutely don't know any sessions musicians at all, you can at least get like a semi live kind of feel.
Sorry, I like have the hiccups tonight. I'm trying not to hiccup on the stream. So if I'm making a strange face, it's my don't hiccup face. But it's not about your track. But yeah, no, I think you're just like, your stuff could totally be like shop to licensing. Like it's just so bang on of the style. And I mean that in the best way possible. Like it's just got that clean idea. And yeah, getting some vocals on it. Rusky was saying falsetto. I could totally see like that thing. So yeah, all right. Any other words to this, Nutty?
No, I can't think of anything better to say. I mean, texting account Chris says, I would love to collaborate with someone, but also I don't know how the word works since I haven't collaborated with anyone. Well, I mean, one, if you let the other person know that this is your first time, then it sets expectations in check.
You're 15? Oh my goodness. Well, Chris, don't be so stressed. I mean, if it's just a vocalist, if that's what I'm, or if somebody like Howard who like sings and just plays instruments, literally, here's what you do. You just send them the beat and you just say, "Hey, record me a bunch of stuff on it." And then whenever you have a chance, you work on it. Like you just play with it.
Go riff
Go
is what the instructions that you need to tell them.
Yeah, it's so important, I think, to collab, and that's kind of why we have this community, and that's why we're starting this channel, and that's why we're doing all this stuff, because collabing is amazing. You learn so much just from working with the person and seeing how they work, and also like trying to navigate, trying to let go of your ideas, trying to take in the other person's ideas, all these things. I mean, I love collaborating. I think one of my favorite collaborations that I actually, I really did, it was pretty hands off, okay? And I think he was also 15. I've still never met him. His name's Slickerus, and he's from Australia, and he's not 15 anymore. I mean, this was like 4 years ago. But just through Discord, we actually made this synthwave track and got it on a synthwave channel, and it's one of my most successful tracks on YouTube. And I've never met him, and the point I'm making is we didn't necessarily like have to sit there at all. He just kind of sent me over. I played some stuff. I sent it back. He asked for a couple other things, and then I came up with a couple more ideas, and it was really fun. And as always, I learned a lot. So do not be afraid. Our next up is from Nathan Vandenberg. I guess the name on the account is Planet X, and it's called All Night Long. people had a lot of stuff to say. The chat blowing up. By the way, you are all the best friends for feedback. I really appreciate how much everyone in the chat seems to just have really detailed, awesome stuff to say. Yeah, I felt like there was a lack of a central element. I mean, not every track needs a central element in the front, but I think if you're going to have a lot of sort of similar like energy elements like that, it's hard to know which one I'm supposed to pay attention to the most. So you have to kind of take me there. You have to have a section that just minimizes to the lead sync and the sub or something like that. Maybe, yeah.
Something's happening with the audio on Twitch.
Oh goodness.
It's going better.
No. What is happening? Okay, we're gonna just turn.
It actually does sound like the idea to it.
That's bizarre. There's been so many weird little things happening tonight. You just never know. I hope that did I fix it by just turning the audio down? But now it's back if I turn it up. What the hell? Okay, always. We are going
It turned into a Bass Hunter B-side.
There's nothing coming through the driver. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn the driver off for a second. And it's still coming.
Welcome to ILBC TV.
This
home
is-
of technical issues.
Oh my
every
gosh,
three-
the weirdest thing is happening right now because nothing is coming through this driver whatsoever, and yet when I turn it up, there's like a sound coming. So, and
Is that being JC saying it's stuck in my head now? Just this.
I've disabled all the audio. I have no idea how that's even pulling anything in. So, all right. So I'm gonna have to fix this, or we're gonna have to stop the stream. We turn into a Bass Hunter B-side. All right. I'm not sure how.
Is it still going, guys?
It's no, I have it muted, but as soon as I turn it up, I can tell that there's level. So something weird
Oh,
is
it's still going. You're right.
it's happening. Well, I mean, it's not. This is the weirdest thing ever. I'm gonna just turn it off completely. Okay, there's no way it can possibly be doing volume now. All right. Now, if I turn it on, please come back.
Is
it still doing it?
No, it's fine. It looks like
still-
it's fine.
Okay, now I'm gonna turn it back on. Oh, now it's like stuck. Oh God. So now it doesn't want to let me do anything. And now it's back. Oh my gosh. Well, I am going to. I could use a different driver. I can turn Safari. It's the weirdest thing because there's no audio coming from anywhere on my computer. So I don't know. I think maybe if y'all can just stick around in the chat for a second. I don't really know what to do other than just restart. Let me just quit. Let me just make sure. Okay, let me just try one more thing. Nope, still going. All right, just stick around. I will be right back. I don't have any other way of fixing this because there's absolutely no audio coming through my computer right now, so it's glitching. Right back. All right, please.